Hello and welcome back to Traitors Expert. We are now looking at Season 4 of the UK Traitors, Episode 3. My name is Ben. And unfortunately in this episode, the first person I think who's been on the UK Traitors cast called Ben was also murdered. Very sad times. But yeah, this is my reaction to Episode 3 of Season 4. It's continuing to be like such a good series. I'm loving the Secret Traitors twist. It's kind of sad that it looks like that's probably ending soon. But for all we know, they might reveal the Secret Traitor to Rachel and Stephen, but they might not necessarily show it to us. You know, they could have the Secret Traitor with their like hood up, and we don't find out, at least for that episode. Maybe it'll get revealed a little bit later, but who knows? At the minute, it currently looks like we're heading towards finding out, which is a shame. But there we go. But yeah, what an amazing series so far. We'll first dive into who was murdered and who was banished. So sadly, Ben was murdered. I can kind of understand why. He's one of the quieter characters. He's the kind of person that maybe wouldn't be likely to get banished. So if no one's going to banish him, like he's had no votes so far, if no one's going to banish him as a traitor, you're better off murdering him. And I do understand the strategy of trying to like pin it on Ross, although it's quite tragically backfired onto the traitors. Because there was this conversation in the library where Ben said, you know, if I go tonight, then look at Ross. And Jesse and Fiona brought this up, that you'll have to look at the people that were in the room who heard that, and Stephen was one of the people there, so he's kind of implicated himself by choosing Ben. So let's see how that progresses as the series goes on. Maybe that's the beginning of Stephen's downfall. Who knows? But it's good that they've actually picked up on that. But there could be more to that, which we'll get into a little bit later. But then yeah, obviously the banishment. Hugo getting banished, one of the three traitors. This is, I think, the earliest banishment in the UK series. It's the second banishment of the series. It's technically episode 3, but it's the second banishment. And he's already gone. So what led to his downfall? I mean, the little speech he did at the breakfast table was definitely overdramatic. And I think that's the problem. It was so out of character as well. Yeah, you could see like the other traitors cringing as well. Like Rachel in particular was like, "What are you doing?" And sadly, that started to lead to him getting voted out. So I've looked at the vote count for this. So Hugo got 10 votes. In second place was Amanda with 3 votes. Interestingly, she's kind of picked up a little bit of suspicion. Reese got 2, Jade got 1. Ross got 1, Sam got 1, and James got 1. So obviously Hugo was definitely like the person to go out of those. Like it was quite clear. But interestingly, I've then had a look at the total votes for the series so far. So out of the people that are still in that haven't been banished or murdered, Amanda is highest at 3 votes. Then everyone else is on a joint second with 2 votes. So Reese has got 2 votes. Jade has had 2 votes throughout the entire series. Ross has had 2 votes. Sam has had 2 votes. James has had 2 votes. And Adam has had 2 votes. So then it's kind of interesting if you look at the people who have no votes at all. And that is Ellie, Faraz, Fiona, Harriet, Jack, Matthew, Maz, Roxy. And interestingly, the 2 remaining traitors, apart from the Secret Traitor, have had no votes so far. Rachel and Stephen are kind of flying under the radar currently. Although I think, like we say, that's probably about to change, at least with Stephen. So that is interesting that they're kind of doing a good job. And then it also makes you wonder, is the Secret Traitor one of the people who haven't had any votes yet? And they're just pulling a blinder, like no one suspected them at all. I think that's probably what's happening. I don't think the Secret Traitor's had a single vote yet, if I had to guess. Yeah. It's annoying because, like, obviously the big mystery is a Secret Traitor, and potentially we're going to find out like next episode. that's kind of been the fun of like analysing these episodes so far, is trying to work out who it is. And it's just added something completely different to the show. I kind of think maybe this has been missing a little bit. You know, it's definitely a show where people want to analyse things, look for little clues, and we've never really been able to do that much. The only thing we didn't really know about was Diane and Ross. Like every now and again, they'll do like the slow murder thing, and you don't know who's been slow murdered, and you kind of get to figure that out. But for the most part, we kind of know exactly what's happening. So it is interesting being put in the position of the faithful and not knowing. And I said in like my previous reaction, that banishment of Judy was so good when you didn't know what she was going to say. So it's kind of sad that that's potentially going to be over in the next episode, because we've only then had one banishment where we don't know what the outcome was going to be, because obviously Hugo, we knew he was going to be a traitor. Yeah, it's kind of sad that we're not going to get that potentially, unless, you know, something happens, but it looks like that's what's going to happen. But I just wanted to have a look at the full cast as well. So we've gone from 22 players now down to 18. We've had 2 murders and 2 banishments. And now we are left with these people. So in terms of trying to like figure out the Secret Traitor twist, we now know, obviously, well, we previously know, obviously, that Rachel and Stephen are traitors, so they can't be the Secret Traitor. And then we know from the shortlists, the people that are still alive, who have been shortlisted, which means they are confirmed faithfuls. That is James, Maz, and Reese. We know are confirmed faithfuls. So everyone else is up for grabs. So that's Amanda, Ellie, Faraz, Fiona, Harriet, Jack, Jade, Jesse, Matthew, Ross, Roxy, Sam, and Adam. So there's still a lot of options of who could be the Secret Traitor. And yeah, it's exciting. And it's going to be interesting, like, after we reveal the Secret Traitor, how many other twists are there going to be? Because we do keep coming back to that family tree that's in the castle. And it really, really feels like they're hinting that there will definitely be more family members within the show that we don't know about. Because we've already lost Roxy. Well, sorry, we've lost Judy, which was Roxy's mum. Why would they keep cutting back to it unless there's definitely some more people in there who are related? So that's been the fun thing, trying to figure that out as well. Because I think that's going to be the twists we have after the Secret Traitor twist. And if you watch my previous episode, I've got some theories about who is related. So, first of all, and this was Rachel's idea, to be fair, that Reese and Amanda will be related somehow, which I agree with. The facial features look very similar between these two. Similar noses, similar eyes, like narrow eyes. They're not exactly the same, but I think there's enough there that they could be. Rachel joked that, like, he looks a bit like you, and then Amanda said, "Oh yeah, he's my son." It could be an amazing double bluff, and he is her son. It could be. Amanda seems quite bold, and like she might like the fun of that, of just literally saying it, like hiding in plain sight. But I think it's more like nephew and auntie. That's my current prediction. But who knows? They might not be related at all, because potentially Reese might be getting murdered in the next episode, and they haven't revealed it yet. So maybe this is just complete, you know, like lunacy with just clutching at straws. But one I'm like quite confident on is Matthew and Jack. So Jack on the left and then Matthew on the right. I feel like there's enough similarity here that they could be related. They could be distantly related. They could be cousins, maybe. But I'm kind of thinking they're brothers. Like I said before, the age gap is about right. It's plausible. Matthew is 35, I believe, and Jack is 28. So that's a good plausible like gap between brothers. And then, like I said, when you Photoshop them to look more similar, Matthew does look a lot like Jack, in my opinion. He doesn't look as much like him in the show, but when you look at these like promotional pictures, they do look very similar, like similar broad shoulders and stuff, you know. But who knows? I feel like there's definitely going to be someone who's related, and currently I feel like they're the most likely. I also did think about like Maz and Faraz. I don't really think facial features are actually that similar between these two, and I'm pretty sure they've got different accents, like completely different accents. So it doesn't seem that likely. And like my theory was that maybe they're like father-in-law, son-in-law, so then they're not actually like blood related. I mean, who knows? Who knows? But I feel like the amount of times we've come back to this now, the family tree, there's got to be someone. But the tricky thing is, you can't just base it off facial features either, because like Roxy was an adoptive daughter of Judy, so then they're not going to look facially similar. But actually, when you think about it, Roxy's accent actually does sound a bit like a Doncaster accent, and that was definitely like Judy's accent was definitely Doncaster. So you could base it off accents a little bit, but I quite enjoy trying to like work out facial features between people, like what have you got from your dad and what have you got from your mum. Accents, I don't really have the ear for. Like I said, I think Faraz and Maz's accents are different enough I can pick up on it, but like a lot of the others, I'm a bit like blind when it comes to that. Like, yeah, so that's harder to like pinpoint. But the other thing people have sort of rumoured online is, what if Ross... So what if there's a couple, basically, and Ross and Ellie, people are thinking, because they've posted similar holiday pictures on their Instagram since being on the show, they're wondering maybe they're a secret couple. It is possible. In this episode, they did have a hug, and Ross was saying, thanks for everything you did for me today. And they did seem like there was a closeness there, but they could have become a couple after the series. Like, they could have realised, oh, there's a bit of chemistry here, and then got together after the series, in which case they wouldn't know each other at the time. So I don't think, even if these holiday snaps are like definitive, that they are the same place, which I don't think there is definitive evidence for they are the same place, but if someone works out that they are, it could just be that. It could just be that actually they just bonded on the show, and they could even be friends and they've just gone on holiday together. Yeah, so I'm not fully buying that theory. And also the family tree seems to suggest more it's a family relation, not like a relationship. And like to say, the translation being about blood, like a blood family like connection, it does seem to hint more towards actual like brother, sister, cousin, grandson and grandfather, something like that, rather than like a couple. Someone in my comments, I'm sorry that I've forgotten who said this, but someone suggested that what if Maz is the grandfather of Faraz? That's interesting, because the ages do just about work. I think Maz is about 61 and Faraz is about 22. Just about works. And that would kind of explain why they don't have like exactly the same facial features, because, you know, they're not the next in line of the family tree or whatever. You get what I'm saying? Yeah, that's interesting. But there's definitely something. I keep wondering about Rachel as well. I think I said this in the previous episode, but she said something about like, oh, I think there's at least 2 family connections. And it's like, well, you don't even know there's one. You don't know that Roxy and Judy are mother and daughter. So why did she jump straight to 2? And it just makes me wonder if she slipped up and actually maybe her brother's in the show. I mean, I don't know who her brother would be out of the options. Maybe James. I just wondered if that was a little slip up. But I don't know. And I can't really see any like similar facial features with her with her contestants. So, but there's definitely someone. And like I say, my bet currently is on Matthew and Jack. I just think they're probably brothers or something. But let's wait and see. In terms of the episode in general, I actually think it was quite a good one. I enjoyed the mission. Like I say, like that always makes it better. If the mission's good, then it's a good episode. And the mission was quite funny. I mean, Faraz in that was hilarious. How he's posing with the cow milking photo. And the whole thing it was very like camp and stuff. It was really funny. Yeah, I can't believe when they showed the pictures to the other team, none of them laughed. I can't believe none of them were laughing, because the pictures were just hilarious. Yeah. I think if that was a celebrity version, they would have all been like laughing their heads off. But yeah, that was a good challenge. That I enjoyed that. But yeah, so that was the episode. In terms of the Secret Traitor, I've been trying to sort of narrow it down myself from the list. It's so difficult. There is like little bits of evidence, but I don't think there's enough that sways me in any particular direction. So a lot of this is just vibe based, who I feel like it could be. There is something interesting I found on Reddit. This is from Glad Dragonfruit, who's done this. This is basically a list of the amount of times that they cut to what they're calling a confessional, but basically it's the piece to camera where they're sat in like the Big Brother diary room chair. So they've tallied up how many times each player has one of those segments in an episode. Basically, this is giving us an idea of the screen time of each player. So this is actually really interesting when it comes to like the meta part of trying to work out who the Secret Traitor is, who's getting more screen time, who are the producers focusing on. So at the bottom of this list we have all the like former, deceased players, sadly. So Hugo, Ben, Judy, Nettie are at the bottom, so we'll kind of ignore them for now. At the top of this list, so the people who have had the most cutaway parts, the most diary room kind of confession segments, we have Stephen and Rachel at 31 and 26 as a combined total of the whole 3 episodes so far. So this isn't that surprising. It's something I've always thought but never had like definitive proof of, that traitors get more airtime. If you want to become famous from this show, you want to be a traitor, because you're going to get cut to so many more times. And this just, look how much they cut to these two compared to everyone else. So Stephen's at 31 cutaways, Rachel's at 26, and the next one down is 13. So they've got over double the amount of cutaway time than anyone else has. That is really like striking. That just shows just how much the traitors get shown compared to everyone else. So yeah, Stephen and Rachel right up at the top. That's kind of obvious that's going to happen. So out of the supposed faithfuls, the people that we don't have as confirmed traitors, the faithful with the most airtime is Ross, interestingly. Sorry, not airtime specifically, but the most confessional cutaway moments in the diary room chair. So Ross is leading the faithfuls at 13. And then also, joints first, is Sam. So Sam and Ross are quite high up there. Now, there could be different reasons behind this, why people are getting more cutaways than others. It could be just a simple like editing thing, like I'm a video editor, like professionally, and certain people are just better on camera than others. They just speak more eloquently and they can speak more concisely. So, for example, Sam, I think, is a very confident person. He's a very good talker. You might want to cut to him more to explain the challenges, for example. So Sam, he might be sitting in the dining room chair and they ask him the question, so what did you do in the challenge? And Sam just gives a really short answer of, we had to look at the paintings, reenact them and send them to the team. And as an editor, you're looking for really easy sound bites like that. And certain people, like I say, are just better at doing them. So that could be why they're getting more prominence than others. I believe Ross is probably getting more because of that Nettie thing. He's had a bit more suspicion than other players. So that kind of makes sense, for they might cut to him more, like his reaction to like, oh no, I can't believe like what Nettie's done. And that might explain that a little bit. Or the other thing is, they could just be more charismatic, fun people, and they just give better answers in the diary room. So then get more airtime because they're saying funnier things or more interesting things. So yeah, this isn't a perfect way of like looking at this, but it does kind of give you a bit of an idea. So Fiona is then the next highest at 8 confessionals currently, and then kind of everyone else, like roughly the same. We've got Adam, Amanda, Faraz and Jade have all had 6. James on 5, Ellie on 4, and then the rest of them, most of the rest of them on 4. Harriet's on 4, Jack's on 4, Reese is on 4, Roxy's on 4. And then down at the bottom, we've got Jesse, Matthew, and Maz have had only 3 each across the episodes. So they're not getting shown as much, or at least they're not cutting to their diary room segments as much. Which, like I say, it's either that maybe they're just not saying as interesting things, or they're not as connected to what's happening in that particular episode. But also there could be an element of maybe they're getting hidden in the edit, and they could be getting hidden on purpose. It's hard to tell, but it does kind of give us an interesting insight into who is getting more screen time. Yeah, so that is quite interesting. In terms of the Secret Traitor then, the list gets narrowed down. After the confirmed faithfuls, after the people on the shortlist, we have Adam, Amanda, Ellie, Faraz, Fiona, Harriet, Jack, Jade, Jesse, Matt, Ross, Roxy, and Sam. So, out of these ones, in terms of what I personally think, just based on vibes, I don't think it's Adam. He seems too faithful, he seems too innocent. Faraz as well, I'm putting into that category. I just don't see it. Jack, I don't really see. Jade, I don't see. Matt, I don't see. And interestingly, Sam, I don't really see. Sam is a great character. He's very confident. He's very assertive. I don't feel like they would have chosen him. I don't know. He would have made a very good traitor. Definitely. But I personally don't see him as the secret traitor. Even though he's had a lot of screen time as well, he's up there at the top of the screen time of the confessionals. I just don't see it. I don't know why. So I'm ruling Sam out. So then that leaves us with Amanda, Ellie, Fiona, Harriet, Jesse, Ross, and Roxy. So these are the final, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these are the 7 most likely, in my opinion. Amanda, Ellie, Fiona, Harriet, Jesse, Ross, and Roxy. Amanda is another one a bit like Sam. It definitely could be her, and it would be interesting for the twist that she's used to trying to catch criminals, and now she is one. That's an interesting twist. But I don't see it. I don't see it. I don't know why. I feel like they would have picked her as a really good faithful, like a traitor hunter, rather than as an actual traitor. But it could be. But for that reason, I'm ruling Amanda out. Just like I say, sort of vibes based. Ellie had a really interesting moment in this episode where she said secret traitor. She said, and watching as a kind of secret traitor. Now, this is really interesting because if she's a faithful, she wouldn't know there's a secret traitor. There's never been a secret traitor in the UK show before. The phrase secret traitor isn't really a well-known thing until this. So it is interesting that she said it, and then it's making people think it's her. But it's too obvious. If she was the secret traitor, then in her diary room segment, she'd probably be talking as if she's the secret traitor, because Rich Dosman on his podcast has communicated with the producers, and apparently in the confessionals, in the diary room segments, the secret traitor is talking as if they're the secret traitor. They're not putting on an act. So then they're talking as if they're the secret traitor, and then they're getting edited to not look as obvious. In which case, if Ellie was the secret traitor, I think they would have cut that out. And the fact they've left it in, I think what's happened here is the editor has gone through it and they couldn't believe their luck. Ellie has coincidentally stumbled upon the phrase secret traitor, and they've left it in as an amazing red herring. And that's what I think it is. It's too obvious. If she was the secret traitor, they wouldn't have left that in. They've only left it in as a red herring. So for that reason, I'm going to rule Ellie out, because we just need to get brutal now, because potentially the secret traitor is going to get revealed next episode. So we've only got a little bit of time now to guess who it is. So I'm ruling Ellie out. I've crossed her out. Similarly, Harriet, the barrister and crime writer, she's been referring to herself in her interview segments as the secret barrister. like almost as if it's like what she's kind of how she's picturing herself in the game. Like, oh, I'm the secret barrister. For that reason, I'm going to rule her out. Because I think it'd be too weird if in her segment she's both referring to herself as the secret barrister and the secret traitor. It seems too similar. Like I say, it's not much to go on, but I'm going to rule Harriet out because of that. Even though I think she would be a good choice. So Harriet's gone. Roxy. Now, someone on Twitter has had a really interesting bit of evidence for Roxy. You don't really get a lot of like physical evidence in this show if you're faithful to try and work it out. But one of the things you do have is handwriting in this case, and the the traitors could work out who the secret traitor is based on the handwriting of the shortlist. And there was a very interesting bit of evidence with this that Matthew Gordon, his name is on Twitter, has had a look at. So, Roxy. So this is Roxy's blackboard for when she voted for James, compared against the time James was written on the shortlist by the secret traitor. And the handwriting does look quite similar. The way the E is joined up to the S is very similar. The J's not too similar, to be fair, but the A, M and E are all joined together, and they're all joined together on the shortlist as well. This is interesting evidence because we don't normally get a lot of physical evidence, or at least the faithful in the show don't get a lot of physical evidence to go by, and a lot of it they just seem to miss. You know, like when they've put markings on a painting to try and determine who's going to get like murdered. Often they don't notice; they never find it. So this is some of the only like core physical evidence we've got, and it is compelling. It could be revealing she is the secret traitor. I don't know though. And there's one thing that's kind of putting me off, and that is those interview segments in the diary room. In those, if Richard Osman is right, and in Richard Osman we trust, the secret traitor is talking as if they're the secret traitor. They're not being told to put on a performance where they have to pretend to be a faithful. In which case, Roxy said about Sam, if he is a faithful, blah 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 blah. She wouldn't say that if she was the secret traitor, because she would know that he is not. She would know he is a faithful, because she knows who the three traitors are. She knows that she's the secret traitor. She would know then that Sam is confirmed faithful. So, for that reason, I'm going to rule Roxy out as well. Even though I think there's a lot of evidence for pointing towards her. The handwriting things, that's definitely compelling. The fact that the family tree said about blood relations and don't trust your own blood, basically. And Roxy and Judy are the only family connection we know of currently. That seems to kind of point that like one of the family members will be a traitor. So there's a lot of evidence for her, but just based on that interview thing, and I'm going to blame Richard Osman if this is wrong, I'm going to rule Roxy out. So ruling Roxy out as well. So then we're just left with Fiona, Jesse and Ross. Ross, it's really interesting. He's, like I say, he's getting the most confessional diary room segments out of any of the faithfuls. So they're giving him a lot of screen time. But is that just because he's charismatic and interesting, and has had the interesting thing with Nettie happen? There is some evidence with Ross that could sort of point towards him. One of the things I think is that he literally said in one of his interview segments that Nettie was a liability for him, and then Nettie gets killed. So it's like, that's very convenient. The most obvious person that would have killed Nettie would be Ross. Likewise, there was the whole thing with Ben, and Ben said that Ross is probably the one who would have killed him. So he has been the most obvious choice both times. And when you think about like the celebrity traitors, for example, every time it was the most obvious person. The most obvious person who would have killed Paloma Faith was Alan Carr, and it was Alan Carr. The most obvious person who would have killed Ruth Codd was Jonathan Ross, and it was Jonathan Ross. So it could be Ross. It could be like a hiding in plain sight kind of moment. I don't know. I don't know if I buy it. I feel like the Secret Traitor is probably a woman. Just based off the fact that then it would be two female traitors, two male traitors. That feels like a good balance. But then it is silly to rule out Ross just based on his gender. And if it is Ross, I think he's played a bit of a blinder. I mean, in some ways he's very obvious, but in some ways he's kind of got away with it, because Ross's total votes across the season so far has been 2. He's been incredibly obvious, but he's only had 2 votes against him. So he's doing well if it is him. And I do think it is possible. Yeah. But then equally, would they be putting the Secret Traitor as the most screen time of any faithful? Because then it does kind of make him look the most obvious. It's really difficult. This is the problem. Because the other thing is, throughout the entire series since episode 1, I've been thinking Fiona. She just seems like the obvious choice. She kind of feels like she balances out the traitors that they've currently got, because she's a bit older than them. I think Hugo was about 50. Stephen, is he? Oh, he's early 30s, Stephen. I think Rachel's mid 30s. Hugo was early 50s. And then Fiona is 60s. So it just feels like that would work. And then it would be 2 women, 2 men. She's a different nationality. No, technically. No, Hugo was Welsh, I think, wasn't he? But I don't know, I just felt like she fit. And she's quite funny. So I think she'd make a good Secret Traitor. Someone was saying in my comments, sorry if I forgot your name, but they were suggested she could have been chosen to redeem Linda, like the older sort of white woman has a bit of a redemption with Fiona as the Secret Traitor. That'd be quite funny. I could definitely see it, but the thing is, it feels like they're hinting at her way too much. She's getting a lot of little suspicious interview segments, too many. But it feels like it's too obvious now. She keeps saying I'm playing this performance as an older woman, an older sweet innocent lady, and they're buying it. And she's saying things like that, and she's saying things like, don't underestimate me. It just, I don't know, it seems a little too obvious now. Like they're hinting a bit too much. So I'm kind of going off her. Which leaves Jessie. When we're talking about the downfall of Hugo, Harriet had a big part in that, so that kind of does point towards Harriet a little bit. No, Jessie wasn't part of the downfall of Hugo, but what's interesting about Jessie is she seems to have kind of been a big part in putting suspicion on the people in the room that Ben was talking about. And putting suspicion onto Stephen, for example, who was one of the members in the room at that time. And if Jessie was a Secret Traitor, she would know that Stephen is a traitor, and she would know for sure, because she kind of says there could have been a traitor in the room, in the library. If Jessie's a Secret Traitor, she knows there was a traitor in the room, and she could have been pushing this narrative deliberately to try and get Stephen out, or to put suspicion on Stephen. I think that's possible, because she's been a bit quiet for the first couple of episodes, which you might do. I think if I was a Secret Traitor, I would do that. My instinct would be to just kind of play her safe for the first couple of episodes, and then she's kind of had this opportunity put in her lap where someone said to her, with her and another traitor in the room, if I die tonight, it's this person. And she's kind of laid this trap, potentially, that Stephen's walked into, and he's got rid of him, and now it's backfired on him. And if it is Jessie, that's quite clever. So I think that's possible, that. Yeah, and I think she'd be a good pick in terms of she'd be a bit of a surprising choice. I don't think people would be expecting her as much as some other people. Again, it kind of works gender-wise. I just feel like it's a woman. Yeah, based on handwriting, particularly, based on... But see, I don't think you can really base it too much on this, but the person inside the red cloak kind of looks feminine to me. But I feel like you can't base it on that because the production crew might have just put a runner in the cloak to kind of throw you off the scent. So you can't really base it too much on that. But they are hinting in the show as well. They're keeping in moments where Rachel keeps saying, I think it's a woman. I think one of the other traitors might have said it as well. But yeah, just instinctively it feels like it probably is a woman. So then it narrows it down to me between Jessie and Fiona. Like I say, Fiona's been my big choice throughout the series, that I think is probably her. But like I say, now it feels like they're hinting too much that it's her. So now I am wondering about Jessie. I feel like she might be my most likely choice at this point for the Secret Traitor. Yeah. Ross, though, I'd ruled him out earlier when I was preparing for this. But now I'm kind of thinking it could be him. Because if you were a woman and you were writing down the shortlist, you would have to think about the fact that feminine-looking handwriting could give you away. And they seem to have deliberately, the handwriting's very obviously feminine. It's got kind of little curly bits, and if we just go to that Roxy image, it does look quite curvy, and it doesn't obviously look like a man's handwriting. It's quite neat. It's more feminine, you would say. If you were a female traitor, I feel like you would try and conceal that a little bit better. It makes you wonder then, could it be a man trying to make his handwriting look more feminine? In which case, then Ross would become the best option. And he could be doing the Alan Carr, Jonathan Ross playbook of don't overthink it. Do the obvious thing because it's so obvious no one's going to suspect you. And like I say, he's only got 2 votes from so far, so he's doing all right if that is the case. So Jessie or Ross. But if I had to put money on it at the minute, maybe Jessie. Oh, it's so difficult. It could be any of them. It could be the people I've ruled out. Faraz is a very cheeky kind of personality. It could very easily be Faraz. A lot of the others, yeah, it's so difficult. But at the minute, I'm thinking Jessie. But it'll be interesting to see, will we get shown the Secret Traitor in the next episode, or will they kind of drag it out a bit longer somehow? That'll be really interesting to see. But there we go. In terms of the next episode, trying to sort of predict who I think is going to get banished and murdered. As far as banished goes, it's always kind of hard to predict that. But like I say, Amanda has had the most votes out of any current faithful or faithful. So Amanda, in theory, she's got the most suspicion on her based on votes. She could go. And then anyone else. I mean, it could be anyone. Reese, Jade, Ross, Sam, James and Adam are all tied on the same number of votes. Ross has obviously had a lot of suspicion on him, so maybe he could go. It's really hard to tell. We'll have to wait and see. In terms of who will be murdered, Stephen and Rachel, if they could, I'm a bit confused about this. Can they actually choose someone to be murdered this night based off the shortlist they did? Or is the Secret Traitor choosing from the shortlist? I don't really understand what's going on there, but if they do get to choose tonight, they'd be crazy not to choose Reese, because they made it so obvious. The fact that they basically asked to be left alone, it's crazy, because that painting is put in such a easy to discover place. Someone's going to notice, and Reese will know that they had a private moment right next to it. I mean, it's quite stupid what they did with that. I think as soon as they knew Reese was going to go with them, they should have stopped. They should have done something else and then tried to go back later on. They've made that look so suspicious. So if they do have a choice to kill Reese tonight, and he is on the shortlist, they've got to. I mean, they'd be crazy not to. But I do just wonder if it might be like a slow poison death with this one. And then Reese will sort of have an opportunity to give some evidence about that family tree thing. But then, to be fair, normally the slow poison's done when it's like a murder in plain sight thing, and it technically wasn't a murder in plain sight. So he might just be gone. And that seems the most likely thing. Which will then be interesting in terms of these theories about family connections, because if he is connected to Amanda, they would have to reveal that in this episode if he's going to die. So we'll see. We're going to get proved wrong on quite a lot of these theories quite quickly, I think. But some of them, like I say, Matthew and Jack, sorry. I feel like it's going to happen. Just wait and see. Just wait and see. But yeah, I'm loving this series so far. I can't wait for the next one. I'll try and get a reaction out as soon as I can. As you can see, the camera quality is improved because I finally found the cable for my proper camera. So I apologise for the quality of the camera in the first 2 episodes, but it's getting better. It's getting better. We're kind of working this out as we go. But yeah, can't wait for the next one. And yeah, come back and subscribe. Tune into the next one. It's fun. And it's really cool, like, seeing everyone's theories in the comments and stuff. So, like, keep doing that. Let me know. So, yeah, thanks for watching. And let's bring on episode 4 of the Traitors UK Season 4. Bye.